Hey there and welcome to the channel. You're watching The Light in My Library. Today we're going to be talking about Grave Peril by Jim Butcher, Book 3 of the Dresden Files. You'll have to forgive my copy of it, as my cat Vin decided to take a bite out of the bottom corner there, but trust me, I still read the whole book, so let's get into it. So this book is an improvement over Full Moon, for sure. It's still not anywhere near the highs that you get in later books out of the series, but it is a continuation of what has been going on so far and an improvement over the last book, so that's good. I have to say, in this book, it kind of caught me off guard, but I wasn't sure how I felt about it while I was reading, but this book is probably one of the first ones in the series to, I'm just watching Vin up there, have a B plot, so to speak. There was a little bit of a mention of the Red Vampire Court in the first book, kind of setting up that conflict. And then in the second book, there was the Hexen Wolves and Billy the Vampire. Billy the Werewolf. Just kind of there in the background, but they weren't full B plots, either of them. They were just things that happened, and this is the first Dresden book, and it becomes a pretty strong occurrence, or it becomes a really strong pattern of Jim's in the later books to have two mysteries, two things, and then he either ties them up together at the same time, one resolves the other, or they end up being connected at the end. But this is the first book with two fully separate plot lines going on. You've got the Red Court politics in this one, and then you also have the main plot of the book, which is the ghost. And Jim does a really good job in later books of having both of those plots be equally interesting. Whereas in this book, I feel a lot like, when I was reading it for the first time, the Red Court Ball really felt like it was just derailing the plot. And then even though it got really cool, it derails the plot even more as it gets cooler and cooler. As it gets more exciting, it just gave off a sense that the plot was just come to a screeching halt. I feel like in this book he didn't integrate those two plots seamlessly the way that he does in later books. As the introduction of Leah in this book, and she is a very good character, and also it's, aside from Toot Toot in the first book, this is our first introduction to the High Fairy, and they are definitely an interesting people, and we'll see a lot more of them in the next book. Also, Michael's introduction is this book, and Michael Carpenter and his family and the Holy Swords are a very, very cool part of the series. Michael's one of my favorite characters, and so it's really good to see them for the first time here. So, jumping into the review, we're going to give this book a 5 out of 10 for plot. As I said in the non-spoiler section, the plot really doesn't come together as well in this book as it does in other Dresden books later in the series, or as well as Full Moon or Stormfront do. In very different ways, it succeeds a lot where Full Moon doesn't, but it is still just not as well put together. So that's also going to bring down our score for pacing to probably a 6 out of 10. It is a very exciting read, start to finish, just like Stormfront is. It is more exciting, I would say, than Full Moon, but it is still has that issue with the Red Court Ball kind of derailing the entire plot. Also, I don't know how I missed it in the non-spoiler section, but this book is also the first introduction to Thomas, the White Court vampire. And he's got a lot to do later in the series, and also one of my favorite characters, so it's good to see him here as well. We're going to give this book probably a 9 out of 10 for world building. As far as establishing the wider world of Dresden Files, with the fairy courts and first introduction to White Court and Black Court vampires, building on that situation and leading directly into some of the conflicts that we see with them later in the series. This book really sets up probably the main storyline for the rest of Dresden that I've read so far for the first half of the series. So it does a lot of heavy lifting for world building. It sets up a lot of things. It introduces a lot of concepts. So we're going to give it a 9 out of 10 for that. We're going to give this book an overall rating of 6.5 out of 10, maybe a 7 out of 10, depending on my mood. Again, it is an improvement over Full Moon. It's not quite as good as Stormfront, in my opinion, and we'll get some better books later in the series. There are, however, also some books that I would put right equal with this one as well, so it is what it is. So let's move into some highlights from this book. The introduction of Michael, not the specific introduction, but not his specific first appearance on screen, but the introduction in general of Michael as a character is very strong in this book. You get a really good idea for who he is really quickly, and he and his whole story in this book I would call a highlight of this book. Also, the Red Court Ball, as much as I said that it derails the plot, is a highlight of this book. And Dresden wielding fire at the end is a highlight of this book. Just the absolute devastation that he wreaks onto the Red Court is awesome in all senses of the word. And definitely a highlight of this one. Also, a highlight I would say is the amping up of the stakes in this book. This is the first time that we see somebody really close to Harry take some actual damage and not be able to just walk it off. With his relationship with Susan is forever changed after this book, and Susan as a person is forever changed and will never really recover from what happens to her here. And so that is a highlight of the series. In general, I would say this is the first time we see some real stakes, some real damage done to our heroes. And so I would call that a highlight of this book. So if you like this video, please do leave a comment down below. Let me know if you agree, disagree with my take on it. Also, if you would please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out. Also, I have a Twitch where I live stream classic games every Tuesday and Thursday. I ended up not being able to on Tuesday this week, and then today I have been dealing with some personal issues and was again not able to, but I do normally stream every Tuesday and Thursday over on Twitch, so if you want to stop by and check that out, I'd really appreciate that. And then you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter, where I post my upcoming schedule, and I discuss books and fantasy with other fans. So you can follow me on all of those platforms. The links are down in the description of the video, and I hope you all have a good one.